Hello everyone, and welcome to your practice. All that's required today is yourself and your mat, although you might find it helpful to perhaps have 2 blocks or 2 things of a similar size to put your hands on if you'd like to use them to help support you in our water salutations. I'll demonstrate with the blocks, and as I said, you may or may not require them, completely up to you. With that being said, we'll start in a comfortable seat. I'm going to use one of the blocks just to elevate my seat, but you can equally use a cushion or may not require anything to support you there. Finding any comfortable seat, a place where we can be still, where we can officially arrive to our practice. You may close the eyes or perhaps soften the gaze past the nose. Bringing or starting to bring your attention inwards. Noticing how you feel. Acknowledging your starting point for your practice today. You might bring your hands together and start to rub them together, generating some heat. Wherever the hands are, maybe bring them more up in line with the heart. I'm going to slow the movement down. Allow the hands to separate. Maybe feel a tingling or a sense of energy moving throughout the palms. And we'll bring the warmth, the energy we created to our heart, one hand on top of the other. Maybe we bow the head down towards it. And taking a moment to acknowledge the flow of our breath. Maybe allowing ourselves, once we've reached the top of our inhale, to allow the breath to be suspended for a moment. Feel how it is hugging you from the inside at that point, right at the top, reaching all the edges, creating warmth, the sensation of support and care from the inside out. And obviously, whenever we need to allow the exhale to come to release, let it be so. We'll spend a couple more breaths here in this place. So if you wish to suspend the breath at the top, feel it from the inside out. The choice is yours. Whenever you're ready, we'll start to take a little bit of gentle movement here, starting with a stretch along the side of the neck. So you may decide to place the hands in the lap, or you can always keep them at heart center. Inhaling to rise up through the crown of the head and exhaling right ear to right shoulder. So maybe feeling a stretching sensation along the left-hand side of the neck, perhaps the top of the shoulder, maybe a little bit in towards that shoulder blade. If this is where we would like to stay, feel free. Otherwise, you might want to take the right palm to the left-hand side of the head, not yanking on the head, but just allowing the weight of the elbow and gravity to do its work. Another option with the left hand, if we so wish to take it, is to either walk the left fingertips out, or if, like me, you're on a block and your arms aren't quite long enough to walk out, you can reach the fingertips out towards the side. There's always many options for many bodies and whatever sensation those bodies choose to want to feel at this time. Gently bringing ourselves back to the center of our comfortable seat. To inhale to rise up through the crown, and this time exhale left ear to left shoulder. This may be enough. You have no one or two options to take with the hands. And be mindful, it doesn't have to be the same set of options as we took on the other side. Bringing ourselves back through to our central comfortable seat. We're going to find some side stretches here. And we'll start by taking our left fingertips out to the side and have the right palm faced up. We'll inhale to scoop the right arm up and over, finding a side body stretch on the right. Trying to think of grounding down through that right sit bone as much as is possible. You might stay on the fingertips, left palm, left forearm, wherever we can find that kind of up and over, that length along the side body and integrity in our sit bone. You might stay here in what I kind of call our central side stretch position. Or you might have a little explore, reaching the right hand kind of on the diagonal from the left knee. That sometimes gets a little bit more in the low back, on the side of the waist. Then maybe reaching back and overhead and behind. This can have a little bend in the elbow here, and we're getting more into the pec and to the abdominal muscles. Maybe flowing in and out, or perhaps one of those three kind of checkpoints is somewhere where we wish to stay and hold. Doing whatever is right for you, what serves you best in this moment. Trust what your body is telling you. Just be wise enough to listen. Up through the middle, this time taking our right fingertips down. Left palm up towards the sky. We'll inhale up and over. You might have a little moment where you notice what this side is bringing to the table compared to the other. That awareness gives us knowledge about our bodies, and knowledge is empowerment. Maybe we choose to stay here, or maybe we go on that little journey of reaching kind of on the diagonal of our right knee and then up and back. Opening up the heart towards the sky. We can find this flow around. We can find a place to pause somewhere on that spectrum. And then up through the middle. Coming to our twists, which will start quite active in our twist to begin with. By inhaling, our fingertips up towards the sky, and exhale, we're going to twist towards the right. It might not be as far as you think you'd normally go in a twist. And we'll use our next exhale to bring the hands down, the left hand maybe towards the left thigh, depending on our comfortable seat, and the right hand on fingertips behind. So now coming into a more passive twist, we'll hold here for a couple rounds of breath. Maybe gradually reaching up through the crown of the head and twisting round with our inhales and our exhales. Back through center, we'll reach the fingertips up towards the sky. Big inhale in, exhale to twist, and allow the right hand to come towards the left thigh and left hand on fingertips behind if appropriate. Again, a couple breaths here to settle into what this side has to offer. We'll make this movement a little bit more dynamic. So our inhales, we're going to reach the fingertips up towards the sky. And our exhales, we're going to twist. Inhaling, fingertips up, and exhaling, twist. The direction you go or the pace at which you're going with does not matter. Just allowing yourself to twist before we bring the hands down to ease ourselves further into it. Trust the strength of your back body. Be supported by your structure. And when we feel like we've balanced out whatever that might look like for you, we're going to find our way to all fours. So in our all fours, I'm just going to move my block slightly out of the way. In our all fours, we're going to take our wrists roughly underneath the shoulders, knees roughly underneath the hips, and start to do some circles here. Starting to warm up through the wrists and through the hips. Maybe noticing where the weight distribution moves as you take these circles around. No prescriptive direction or number of times. And then we'll come back towards our neutral position. Find some cat-cow. So starting with the tailbone lifting up on an inhale. The belly button moves down towards the ground. The heart reaches through the upper arms. Throat opens, gaze towards the sky. And as we exhale, we'll start by curling the tailbone under, hugging the belly button up and in, pushing in between the shoulder blades and chin to chest. Finding that ripple effect from tailbone all the way to crown as we breathe in and out. Trying to articulate the spine. And noticing the strong foundation of the arms and the feet, supporting this fluid movement of the spine. We possess all the capability to support ourselves. It's just becoming aware of it. Next time we come back through center, we'll pause there. We're going to extend the left leg out behind us and curl the left toes under just to take that little rock back and forth, working into the back line of the leg. You might even take a pause, really pushing back through the heel if that feels like a nice stretching sensation for you. And then when we're ready, we're going to slightly lift the left toes away from the ground. If you've got a slidey floor around you, you might keep the toes slightly planted. And there's less friction as we move the leg around. Otherwise, that gentle lift would be more appropriate. And we're going to come into what I kind of call rainbow leg. So we're going to take that left foot over towards the right-hand side. Maybe take a little glance back at it. And then all the way around to our left-hand side. Going in this little circle or this little rainbow arc, finding a little bit of dynamic movement. And next time we bring that leg out to the left, we're going to allow it to plant. And it's okay if you are up on the heel. I'll just turn sideways so that you can see. We're coming into this half middle splits position. And as I said, it's okay if the foot isn't planted and it's lifted away from the ground. Here we might take a couple little rocks back and forth, work into the inside line of the leg. And then we're going to find a stretch by walking the hands over towards the left somewhere. Again, not a prescriptive destination or a place where these hands have to go. It will all depend on things like your proportions, anatomy, tension, tightness, general flexibility in certain areas. We'll allow ourselves to perhaps bow down the hands. Perhaps could be on a block, reaching out for something. Maybe you grab the leg, the foot. Then it'll explore on the other side. So on one side you may feel a lot, and the other side not much, or both sides loads, both sides not much at all. And it's a chance to explore. Bringing ourselves back so that the palms are directly underneath the shoulders now. We're going to trust in our strength, and we're going to see if we can lift that left leg away from the ground. Maybe a couple little taps here. And next time it's lifted, we'll see if we can twist or turn the top of the femur up, put a little bit of a bend in the knee, so the left foot can come down towards the ground, rising up into this modified warrior pose. Alternatively, we can always be with the leg extended, come up and do a little pivot. Many ways to get into the same place, and as always, a nice chance to explore. We'll find this moving in and out. Bit of fluid movement. And taking our left forearm to our left thigh, we'll either reach the right fingertips past the ear, over towards the left, or up towards the sky, finding modified side angle. And this journey is your own to make our way back to all fours, to find the other side. So this time extending the right leg behind us, curling the toes under, a little rock back and forth. Moving straight into our rainbow leg, for lack of a better name. Lifting up the right toes, taking them over towards the left, maybe having a little peek. And then following the leg all the way around to the right. Allowing the leg to move around in this rainbow-like arc. Rocking the hips from side to side. And the next time the leg is out towards the right, once more I'll move to more face you. We'll allow it to stay extended out towards the right and plant the foot, or maybe we're more kind of on the inside of the foot or the heel. Find a little rock back and forth, completely up to you whether you curl the left toes under to help support the movement. Then we'll allow ourselves to walk our hands over towards the left. Again, they can be placed on a block. We can plant the hands down, hold on to part of the leg, and bow down. See what shows up. Rising up and walking the hands over to the left. Interesting to explore both sides. Seeing what's available before coming back through center. This is where we're going to trust in our strength, in our foundation, and see if we can lift the right leg away from the ground. Maybe a couple little taps. And then the fun transition of lifting the leg up, turning the top of the thigh a little bit more towards the sky, bend the knee, stomp down, and start to move in to our little rocks back and forth in our modified warrior 2. Finding a moment of stillness with right forearm down, left fingertips reaching past the left ear or up towards the sky. Feeling that space across the front of your hips. And then making our way back to all fours. However, we best know, I know I'm facing the back of my mat currently. Hopefully you're facing the front, but it doesn't matter if you're not. We're going to come to sit on our bums. We're going to find what's called deer pose. I sometimes also refer to it as mermaid on a rock. And it's obviously absolutely fine if you don't look the same as me. So if the legs aren't down on the ground, you can use blocks to help support and prop here. If we feel like we need a little bit of padding, you might even sit up on a block, and that might just help the pelvis to move into position to facilitate deer pose. I tend to find that the closer the foot is to the opposite top of the thigh, that there's a bit more room to maneuver and explore in this position. We're going to again cultivate a bit of that strength, but here internal strength, namely through the legs, so that we can use that to then do our standing postures and our water salutations. So here you might decide to place the hands down on like your shin, the ground. Sometimes I like to use a block to press my hand into. We're going to focus on the back leg first. So pressing into the front shin, we're going to see if we can lift the back foot off the ground and do a couple down and ups. Now, while you're doing this, I'll explain that the back foot doesn't have to technically come off the ground, but you're just trying to get it so that it's not so firmly rooted against it. Maybe as if you could fit the thinnest bit of tracing paper, or you could blow air through the tiny gap and you might feel it on the other side. And when we're ready, we'll release. This time the hands might want to come behind you. I like to have them on fingertips personally, rolling the shoulders up, back and down, so I can really feel the shoulder blades draw together, the heart move forward. I want this movement just to come from my back leg, or my back leg as much as possible. I'm going to see if I can lift my back knee. And lower. And here we are, we'll do some lifting and lowering. Each time we lift, try and go to the limit. You'll really feel it in the hip socket, as well as potentially other places in the leg that are like, oh, I've not been in this position for a while. And the next time we've lifted that leg up, you might firmly plant that right hand down to the ground or a block. And we're going to take the left hand to the outside of the left thigh. We're still going to drive the left thigh to the space behind us. And the hand is going to firmly press against it, hindering that movement. Got two opposing forces here. With all your internal strength, think of pushing into the hand and the hand pushing back. And release. There's always an option to extend that back leg long. Whenever you're ready, we're going to meet in turning more towards, I say the right because my right leg's in front, the direction of my front leg, and find some little folds down and cascading back up. So once more, quite a dynamic movement, flowing movement. Finding some ease. Coming back up. Two options here for a stretch along the front of that back leg. So it might be option number one that you extend the left leg out long, plant the right hand to the ground behind you, swoosh the left arm up and over as you squeeze the glutes and press the hips forward. Option number two requires a little bit more in terms of flexibility and flexion in the knee, for example, because that left leg, instead of extending, is more going to tuck underneath you so that you're sat more towards being on top of the left heel. This right leg, the right foot, is going to plant down on the ground. So you'll see I'm kind of in a half kneeling, but with one of my legs out from underneath me. We then take our hands behind us, think squeeze the glutes, press down into the feet, and lift up through the hips. It's okay if that right heel wants to lift, but hopefully we should feel this along the front of that left thigh, left hip. And lower, and come back down. Wherever we were, leg extended or leg underneath, we'll come back to our deer pose. And we're going to swap to the other side. I will obviously stay facing you or return to facing you. We can see if we can do this hands free. It doesn't matter what way you're facing in the end. We're going to see if we can lift the back knee, then lift the front knee. So we're more kind of turned to face to the side. And we're going to keep moving in the direction behind us and allow the back knee to drop down towards the front and the front knee to drop down towards the back. So you should end up with the opposite leg in front in your deer pose on the other side. Amazing. When we're ready, we'll move to this side. So finding that back foot in your mind's eye, cultivating, trusting the strength you possess within you. And when we're ready, we'll lift the back foot. Whether it actually releases contact away from the earth or it's just not pressed against it quite as firmly, we'll lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower, lift and lower. Do whatever you need to do with your hands. I'm doing some form of like la 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 la. You may find it works really well on one side and again doesn't work on the other. And then release. Back knee. Hands again may come more behind the back body to keep open through the chest and try and keep the torso more facing forward. When we're ready, we'll lift the back knee and lower. Lift, remembering to try and push towards the edge. As always though, in any yoga practice, pain is a no-go. Discomfort might occur. But have the trust in yourself that you know the difference between the two. And next time you lift up that back knee, we'll place the back hand down and take our hand to the outside of that thigh. Using all of our strength to keep driving the leg and up or the knee away from the ground. Trying to lift it more towards the back of the room and have the hand press firmly on the thigh, trying to push it in the opposite direction. And release. Always the option to extend the back leg behind as we twist over the front leg, the front thigh, and find our ripple folds. Bringing ourselves back through center, the two options for the stretch along the fronts of the hips. So maybe you extend the back leg, hand plants behind you, swoosh the other arm up and overhead, pressing the hips forward. Or alternatively, we can draw that back heel more underneath the sit bone. Take the front leg so its foot is planted firmly on the ground, kind of like a little combat-y stance. Hands come behind. I like fingertips just to make my arms longer. And when we're ready, pressing down into the front foot, squeezing the glutes, tucking the tailbone under and lifting. And whenever we're ready, release. This time extending both legs out into a straddle position. You may decide to sit on a block here. You may decide to have a block out in front. I quite like having something to kind of reach towards, particularly when I'm folding in a wide leg forward fold. There are many poses that I enjoy. Wide leg forward fold isn't always one of them, interestingly. I think it's just the way that my body moves into it. But what I do like is finding just this little sway. And coming back through center, we're going to find a little bit of that internal strength and the trust within ourselves that we can give this a go. And you might surprise yourself with what happens. It doesn't matter how wide the legs are. So sometimes I need to adjust the width of my legs here. But we're going to try and see if we can lift the feet off the ground. So I like to press my hands down into the block for a little bit of feedback. I think of hoiking in through the belly as if I'm drawing the belly button back, sucking in, and then pressing down to lift up the feet. And release. Cramping, very, very, very possible. Another option momentarily to give that a whirl again, or you might try one side at a time to practice a lift. I might use my blocks here actually to find a little bit more lift. So it's again that action of like hugging the belly in and kind of rounding forward to draw the, in this case it's going to be my right leg back. It's like I'm really plugging it in. I'm going to place the hands on the ground or a block, bend the elbows, press down and see if we can lift. Can we lift a leg? And lower. Maybe trying the other side. Or as I said, alternatively, we can be doing that middle lifting up the heels. And when I say lifting up the heels, that is completely relative to you. Doesn't matter if they actually lift, but if we feel that strength, that engagement that's starting to pull away, that's our starting point. Yoga is a practice after all. Feel free to give those hip flexors a little bit of a massage. And we're going to find our way onto all fours. Just to tuck the toes under. Don't forget about those pinky toes and sit back on the heels, finding a toes pose. Now in this toes pose, we're going to do a little bit with the upper body. Mainly to distract ourselves from what's going on in our feet, but I promise you it will really help us move more fluidly throughout the rest of our practice. So maybe interlacing the hands, taking them behind the head, roughly where a ponytail would be, or below a bun. And we're going to allow the chin to come towards the chest and the elbows just to hang down. We might get a nice stretch along the back of the neck here. Maybe we feel it in between the shoulder blades. And we're going to allow ourselves to kind of just tick-tock side to side. Still trying to keep the bum over the heels. This movement is more coming from the upper back body. Coming through center. We'll use an inhale to open up the chest, the heart, the throat, the gaze, the elbows wide, maybe peeling the tailbone back. And use our exhales to really curl in, tuck in, hug into yourself. Inhale to expand, open up along the front body, think cow pose. And exhale to contract, draw in, think cat pose. Inhaling cow, exhaling cat. On our next inhale, when we've opened up, we'll release the interlace of the fingers, draw the elbows down, cactus arms, bit of a back bend here, lovely deep inhale. And exhale, draw those hands to heart center. Bring it back to you. Coming forward onto hands and knees. Tap, 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 tap the feet. And we'll come straight back into an active child's pose. Now, don't worry when I say we're going to curl the toes under. We're not going to sit the bum back over the heel, so you might find this a little bit more of a relief. So knees can go a bit wider. Curl the toes under. Sit the bum more towards the heels. Doesn't matter if it touches. And extend those arms out in front so that you can press the palms down, spread the fingers, plant the fingerprints, knuckles of the hand. So much so that we can really, really, really push the hands down into the ground as if you're trying to whip that mat out from underneath you. Feel that connection, the strength that it creates, where the energy wants to move. Maybe those knees want to start to lift off the ground. Go with that. Try and keep belly hugged towards the top of the thighs as we start to peel that tailbone up. We can always shimmy the legs back a little bit. Tailbone up towards the sky, downward facing dog. Feel free to keep the belly to the thighs and the knees generously bent here if you wish. When we're ready, we'll take a little ripple forward into a plank. So up on the toes, bend the knees, ripple up and over to find our plank pose. And then up and back, downward facing dog. One more time, up on the toes, bend the knees, up and over into a plank. And then bend the knees, belly towards the top of the thighs. Peel the tailbone up to the sky. Knees drop down towards the ground. We can come back into a child's pose with the toes untucked, allowing the forehead to come down towards the earth. Or maybe we take the hands behind us, palms faced up. You might move towards a wrist stretch before we come out of this place by drawing the backs of the palms a little bit closer to where the knees are. Keep a bend in the elbows. Press the tops of the hands down into the ground beside you. Drawing the hands out in front, moving to all fours. This is where I'm going to start to demonstrate with blocks. We'll do a water salutation kind of prep flow, and then we'll move into our water salutations. So in all fours, I've now placed my hands down. I'm going to cue hands to the ground, but that can mean on blocks if you're using them as I am. I'm going to curl the toes under, lift the knees, belly towards the tops of the thighs, peel the tailbone up towards the sky, downward facing dog. And if you're using blocks, you might adjust here. Maybe notice the difference that makes in the space that you've created. When we're ready, we're going to lift our right leg up towards the sky, a bend in the right knee, and the right knee is going to travel towards the left elbow, the left tricep. Doesn't matter how close it gets. This is to facilitate us then allowing the right leg to cross over the left leg. So we're in a kind of like wonky side of the mat, downward facing dog with legs twisted. We're going to lift that right foot off the ground again and draw the right knee this time towards the right tricep, the right elbow, and step it back to its original position, downward facing dog. To the other side, lifting left leg up, bend in the left knee towards the right tricep, the right elbow, crossing the left leg over the right, twisted legged, downward facing dog. The left knee towards the left elbow, the left tricep, and up and back to our downward facing dog. Taking 3 breaths here. And then walking our feet up towards our hands, allowing ourselves to come into a forward fold. Inhaling the arms up towards the sky and exhaling hands to heart center. Allowing the hands to release face forward to stand into Tadasana for a moment. Notice what it feels like to be standing for the first time in our practice. We still feel that energy in our palms. And taking a little moment of fluid movement by beginning to sway the hands. I'll face towards you to demonstrate. And this, I believe, is a yoga with Adrian knocking on heaven's door. A nice moment to find a bit of freedom from structure, as our water salutations are more fluid and do require that bit of trust when we might move away from routine or things that are known. I trust that things will work out exactly as they should. The trust that we have the support within ourselves to allow ourselves to facilitate that. And gently coming to stillness. Back at the front of our mats, we'll inhale the arms up towards the sky and exhale hands together down through the midline to forward fold. We'll inhale to find a halfway lift or flat back. Hands or fingertips can always be on blocks. And exhale to fold. We'll inhale and step our right and our left leg back to downward facing dog. Right leg will lift, a bend in the right knee, and our right foot is going to journey towards our left thumb. Plant the left knee down. So we're in a lunge that we're quite on a tightrope, likely with the right heel kind of in front of the left knee. When we're ready, we'll inhale, reach the heart forward and deeper into that lunge. And exhale, we'll curl the back toes under, lift the back knee and step that left foot behind the right and fold. So twisted leg forward fold. Inhale the arms up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together down through the midline to forward fold. Stepping our left leg back, reaching the heart forward here. Planting the palms, stepping the right leg back to plank. And then up and back to downward facing dog. Left leg lifts, bend in the left knee. The left foot will journey towards the right thumb. Right knee plants. Inhale, reach the heart forward. Exhale, step the right leg behind the left and fold. Inhale the arms up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together down through the midline to fold. Stepping our right leg back, keeping the knee lifted, maybe shining the heart forward in this position, placing the palms, stepping back to plank, and then up and back to downward facing dog. Reaching the right leg up to the sky, bend in the right knee, journeying that right foot towards the left thumb, dropping the left knee down, inhaling, reach the heart forward, exhale, cross-legged forward fold, left journeys behind the right. Inhaling the arms up towards the sky, exhaling hands down through heart center to fold. Stepping our back leg back, kicking back to plank. This time taking the knees down towards the ground, curls toed under. Curls toed under? Toes curled under. Too fluid and free. The hands are going to draw towards the body. We'll roll up, reach the arms up towards the sky, maybe even slightly further back, and then cascade the hands back down, lifting up and back, downward facing dog. Lifting the left leg, bending the left knee, left foot towards right thumb. Right knee down, inhaling to reach the heart forward. Exhaling to step the right leg behind the left and fold. Inhaling the arms up towards the sky. Exhaling hands to heart center. We fold. Hands plant, take that right leg behind us and kick back to plank. Drop the knees slightly wide, toes curled under. There we go, said it the right time, the right way this time. Reaching the arms up and back. And exhaling to cascade and fold, float down, up and back. Downward facing dog. We'll take a vinyasa here before meeting back in down dog. So maybe up on the toes, bend the knees, roll yourself forward to plank. Maybe taking an awakening vinyasa, so doing a push-up, knees down, pull yourself forward to upward facing dog and up and back. Downward facing dog. Feel free to take any other version of a vinyasa, obviously, though. When we're ready again, lifting right leg up to the sky, bend in the right knee, take the right foot over towards the left thumb, drop that left knee down, reach the heart forward, lift the back knee, step the back leg behind the one in front and fold. Inhaling the arms up. And exhaling to fold back down. A little bit different here. We'll step our left leg back, plant the left knee, reach up and back, Anjayasana. You might find that we kind of drew ourselves out of our lunge to allow ourselves to then sink back in, fluid and flowing like a wave. We're going to start to straighten the front leg, send the bum towards the back of the heel, and find our half splits. Block super handy here. Similar to when we did other stretches where we were on our knees at the start, it might be that you want to move the hands around in a different position. So maybe you take the hands out to the outside of the right leg and reach the heart forward in a different direction. How does that change the sensation? You can move the foot around, technically moving the femur in the hip socket to see if that creates a sensation you're chasing. Coming back through center, curling those back toes under, lifting the back knee. We'll kick back to plank. Take those knees nice and wide. Draw those hands towards the body, up towards the sky, maybe floating back. And bring ourselves floating on down. Hands to the floor, up and back, downward facing dog. Left leg lifts, bend in the left knee. Left foot towards right thumb. Plant the right knee down, reach the heart forward, and curl the back toes under and step the back leg behind the one in front, fold. Inhale the arms up towards the sky, and exhale hands down through heart center. We'll step the back leg, the right leg back, plant the right knee, inhale, swoop up and back. Into our Anjayasana, allowing yourself to sink back in to that lunge. When we're ready, starting to draw the bum back towards the back heel, start to straighten through the front leg and fold over the top of it. And block super nice here. We might find that different approach to the half split. So reaching the heart over the belly button, kind of up and over the front thigh, but to the side. Bringing ourselves back to center, curling the back toes under, lifting the back knee. Kicking back to plank. Knees plant nice and wide, toes can still be curled under. Drawing the hands towards the body, lifting them up and back. And exhaling to fold on down, up and back. Downward facing dog for your choice of vinyasa or skip it. All meeting in down dog. Planting the knees. Untucking the toes and coming back to sit on the heels. When we're ready, we'll come on to our bottoms to allow ourselves to lower onto our backs. Taking the outside of that right ankle, crossing it over the left thigh. Drawing the thighs in towards the body. Maybe we interlace the hands behind the left thigh on top of the left shin. And just taking a moment here to breathe. Gently releasing the interlace of the hands, allowing the sole of the right foot to come down towards the left to find an easy twist. We can either keep that right knee more up towards the sky, or we can try and tuck that right leg underneath the left and then twist back towards the left-hand side. Maybe to find a slightly deeper twist, or what's known as twisted root legs. That left hand can always come to the outside of the right thigh. Coming through center, hug both knees in. Maybe those circles with the knees, they can be the same or opposite directions. Soles of the feet to the ground, cross the left ankle over the top of the right thigh, figure four shape on the other side. Maybe interlacing the hands here again, perhaps in a different place to the other side. When we're ready, releasing the interlace of the hands and allowing the sole of the left foot to come down towards the right. That left knee can be up towards the sky, or perhaps tuck the left leg a little bit underneath the right. Allow them to weigh heavy towards the ground on the right hand side. Maybe the right hand to the outside of the left thigh to help support the transition into the twist. Bringing everything back to center. Finding our place for Shavasana. I'm going to grab a block personally and come into a variation of supported bridge. Placing the block underneath my sacrum, any height. And then extending the legs out long, maybe the arms overhead. But anywhere where you can find yourself bringing an element of symmetry back into the body. Settling here. Maybe you bring your attention back to your breath, or maybe your awareness sits within your body and how it feels after our practice today. Hopefully taking what we've done on the mat out into the world, moving with a little bit more fluidity, with a little bit more ease, releasing and surrendering to whatever will be, trusting in the process, knowing that you can support yourself through anything. Stay here for as long as you wish. As always, thank you for practicing with me. Have a lovely rest of your day.